So I initially planned to talk about this subject more generally and release this video on the 9th of July, but this new information that's coming out, I want to try and get this out on the 8th of July and talk more specifically about Netanyahu and Trump's further discussions about the ethnic cleansing of Gaza. Forced transfer, ethnic cleansing, all absolutely illegal under international law. The two of them have come together in their, little messed up get together where they basically want to discuss ethnically cleansing Gaza. Netanyahu is chilling out in the White House, probably being wined and dined. He's staying there until Thursday. He's likely going to be meeting business leaders to try and get their help to murder Palestinians en masse. We know a lot of Silicon Valley and Wall Street are trying to invest heavily in the murder of Palestinians to make a little bit of money because capitalists fucking suck. But right now, they are in discussions of this ethnic cleansing. So we'll go through the article, we'll discuss some stuff that they bring up in further details. So at the moment, we'll go over the rough background. Trump and Netanyahu meet for dinner in the Blue Room of the White House on Monday as indirect talks in Qatar between Israel and Hamas on US-backed proposals for a 60-day ceasefire to halt the 22-month Gaza war appear to be gathering some momentum. So again, Netanyahu and Israel have said, we don't want a permanent stop the fighting. Hamas every single time is like, permanent ceasefire, permanent stop the fighting. And every single time Netanyahu and his cohort and the United States obviously are like, we'll give you like a month, we'll give you 2 months. Normally after 1 month, Israel breaks it. Maybe even less time. And it's all to make themselves in the PR world seem good. And then you have all of these like the right-wing media, or most of the media to be honest, coming out and saying, Hamas are being so difficult, and Hamas are literally just like, we just want you to stop murdering civilians. Anyway, 60 days is what they're trying to do. Netanyahu told reporters at the meeting the US and Israel are working together with other countries to give Palestinians a better future, suggesting that the residents of Gaza could move to neighbouring nations. Again, illegal. You cannot force people out of where they live. You cannot forcibly displace them. That is literally a war crime. It's a crime against humanity. The UN Charter literally says this because of what the Nazis were doing in World War II, forcibly transferring Jewish people and disabled people and gay people, etc., out of the country, occupying their land, stealing their homes. The Europeans were doing this in Africa for decades and centuries before the Nazis did it as well. This was literally what the US did to get control of their nation, forcibly displacing the Native Americans, occupying their land, killing them. This is what these nations do. All of these Western nations are built off of exactly what Israel is trying to do. That is why they don't really care all that much that Israel is trying to forcibly displace Palestinians, that are trying to ethnically cleanse Palestinians, because almost every single nation that is allied with Israel has done that and actually prides the fact that they did that. The United States loves the fact that they murdered and killed and forcibly displaced and forced Native Americans onto reservations. The British love that they forcibly killed and displaced people in places like South Africa and colonized South Africa. The Dutch did the same thing in South Africa. The Spanish and the Portuguese did the same thing in South America. The French did the same thing across Africa. And even in Asia, they did it. The West won't really condemn. You're going to get lip service from places like the BBC and Sky News, and maybe the Guardian will condemn it, but even them, they're okay with kind of what they're doing. If people want to stay, they can stay, but if they want to leave, they should be able to leave. It shouldn't be a prison. It should be an open place to give people a free choice. This is how they are going to try and justify the forcible displacement. I can't say displacement today. They are basically saying, we're not making them leave. They have the choice to leave. We're just making it completely inhospitable for them to live there. So then they choose to leave. So then it doesn't sound like they're forcibly displacing them. And then they have some sort of like defense when it comes to war crime trials, which again take decades. 10, 15 years before anything is going to happen to these monsters, whether they be the Israeli soldiers, the settlers, the politicians, the Americans, the businesses. They're going to get off scot-free, or in 20 years' time, they'll be old and be like, oh, well, you're a war criminal now. Here's a slap on the wrist. We're working with the US very closely about finding countries that will seek to realize that what they always say, that they wanted to give the Palestinians a better future. I think we're getting closer to finding several countries. This is probably the Arab countries, maybe some of the neighbouring countries. I will not put it past Jordan. I don't know, actually. Jordan has a complex relationship with Palestinian refugees. I don't know if they want to take any more in. I wouldn't put it past Egypt at the moment. They would take the Palestinians in, probably won't give them rights. Saudi Arabia will probably do it. Saudi Arabia will probably want to use Palestinians as more slaves. The UAE would probably want to do that. Qatar would probably want to do that. You know, they would probably want to take Palestinians in and use them as slaves, not give them proper rights. Maybe there would be some, maybe like El Salvador, something like that. These are countries that are probably willing to participate in the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians if it meant they got some kickbacks from the US. They might get, you know, better trade deals. They might get no tariffs on them, like Trump is saying, oh, we're going to tariff you. You know, these countries only care about making money. You know, they're in cahoots with Israel and the United States. They just want to make, it's all these capitalists care about is making money. You know, the poorest people in these countries aren't going to benefit from this. You know, a poor person in Saudi Arabia isn't going to benefit from Palestinians being forcibly displaced into Saudi Arabia, but Aramco may benefit from having dirt cheap labor. I'm saying Saudi Arabia as an example. I can't, you know, Saudi Arabia isn't listed here, so it's not necessarily Saudi Arabia. Trump, who earlier this year caused outrage when he floated this idea of relocating Palestinians and taking over the Strip to turn it into a Riviera on the Middle East. This is actually something that Tony Blair and his team were involved in. They tried to deny it, and then proof came out, and they were like, well, we didn't say it's a Riviera. We just helped plan the Riviera. So there's been great cooperation on the matter from surrounding countries. Again, I wouldn't put it past the Gulf states, because the Gulf states don't give a shit about Palestinians. You know, the Gulf states tout being, you know, Muslim nations. They don't give a shit. They don't care. I mean, look, I'm going to get a Saudi in my comments being like, MBS would never say that, guys. Oh my God. And fucking MBS. Of course MBS would say that. And then let's get into some analysis that Al Jazeera has of actually the, you know, what would happen if this plan came to fruition, which I want to say I hope will never happen, but none of these nations actually give a shit about human beings. They all just want to make money. It's fucking infuriating. It's a recipe for chaos. This is something the Israelis have been saying for some time, calling it the voluntary migration of Palestinians from their homeland, but of course this has been condemned as ethnic cleansing. Al Jazeera's Hamad Salat said, reporting from Amman, Jordan. Former Israeli diplomat Alon Pincus told Al Jazeera that just because there are ongoing reports and statements about relocating Palestinians in Gaza to other countries, it does not mean that there is a practical plan. Yes, obviously, I mean, like, I'm talking about this as if, like, I don't know, countries are lining up and have actually said, yeah, here's what we're going to do about it. This could just be them grandstanding and talking about it. I don't really see the political implication, like, benefit of actually saying, yeah, we're going to, you know, commit ethnic cleansing. Like, I don't really see what the benefit is for the United States, even though, you know, Donald Trump, real piece of shit, is bad at doing politics in the game of politics. I just don't understand what he will gain from it. Like, I know he just wants his Nobel Peace Prize and that's all he cares about, but the only thing that he's set to gain is US companies are going to make money. And I guess that's maybe the case. Like, he doesn't care about, you know, what the British or the French or the Spanish or whatever Canadians think about him. His role as US president is to enrich Silicon Valley and Wall Street. And the idea that they can get, this new land where they can build whatever they want. They can get involved with the surveillance and the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians, the forced migration of them. Oh, we're going to set up the boats. They're going to force the Palestinians out of Palestine. We're going to set up the taxis and the cars and the trains. We're going to build the trains to get the Palestinians out. Maybe that is what they want to do. And I think that is actually what his upside is for him. From like a general politics around the world, he'll get a slap on the wrist. Keir Starmer will say, Mr. President, I don't think you should be doing the ethnic cleansing, Mr. President. How about a 10% tariff on British steel? And that's probably what Keir Starmer's reaction will be. The fucking bastard. The fact that the Israeli defense minister blurts out some ideas, or even the prime minister, or even the president of the United States, doesn't mean there was a plan. Obviously, yes. I guess that it doesn't necessarily mean there was a plan, but in early February, Trump spoke about a Palestinian Riviera, and within 36 hours, he changed from the Riviera for the Palestinians. The Palestinians will be expelled. Again, it's like these people play with the like these children. These people play with the lives of these children, of these families, of these human beings, because they don't care. Capitalism doesn't care about human beings. You can every single person can be wiped off the face of this planet apart from like 10 people, and they will be like, how do we make some money off this? That's an over-exaggeration, because capitalists don't want the complete eradication of humans, because where will their workforce come from? Where will they make money from? Who will they exploit, obviously? But they are willing to murder large swathes of a population and then enslave the rest of that population to ensure they make money, essentially. Yeah, here you go. Here's the thing about... let me just quickly read this. But a sticking point is whether the ceasefire will end the war altogether. Hamas has said that it's willing to free all captives in exchange for all Palestinian prisoners and a full Israeli withdrawal from Gaza. Netanyahu says the war will end once Hamas is surrendered, disarmed, and goes into exile, something the Palestinian group refuses to do. Again, Hamas, we want to stop the fighting. We want to stop the war. We want to give back the captives. I mean, literally day one, Hamas were like, listen... The reason they did the thing was to get Palestinians that had been illegally kidnapped and illegally detained by Israel freed. And they said from day one, here, free the Palestinians, free them from your illegal administrative detention, and we'll let everyone go. Everyone will be fine. And Israel said, no, fuck that. We're going to murder hundreds of thousands of people, because that's what Israel does. Israel is a genocidal regime to its core, and it always has been and it always will be. Why? Because it is backed by a large genocidal regime of the United States, whose history is steeped in the mass slaughter of the Native Americans, the mass slaughter of black people, the mass slaughter of Latinos, South Americans. Just America's entire history is built off of genocide and slaughter. And that is all the United States is and ever has been. So Hamas are happy to let the people go, and Israel is saying, no, we're just going to kill you all anyway. Here's the thing about the Nobel Prize. Trump and Netanyahu's discussion came just 2 weeks after the former ordered the bombing of Iran's nuclear site in support of Israel's airstrikes after announcing a ceasefire in the 12-day Iran-Israel war. During the meeting, Netanyahu gave Trump validity, saying that had been used to nominate the US president for the Nobel Peace Prize. Trump, appearing pleased by this gesture, thanked him. Again, Donald Trump is a very unique, spanner in the works here. Like Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, they would have also, done this. They would have, been like, listen, Bibi, stop. You're a bad man. Well, Joe fucking... Is he dying? I hope Joe Biden's dying. But they would have probably been like, Bibi, yeah, we get it. We also want to ethnically cleanse Palestine. But, we're going to do it slowly. Whereas Trump is like, What's a great way for me to be able to get a Nobel Prize because Obama has one? Obama doesn't deserve it either, frankly. I mean, Nobel Peace Prize is kind of bullshit. No politician should deserve the Nobel Peace Prize, frankly. But I digress. So much of this is about optics. Literally, like, Trump is doing all of this. He's like, if I ethnically cleanse Gaza, I have technically brought peace. Therefore, I should get the Nobel Peace Prize. I don't really know what wins you the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, what other groups would be nominated for it? I know, was it last year there was a group out of Japan that was doing work for nuclear survivors, or about like trying to push nuclear disarmament. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I'll put it up there if I'm right. Trump has made it a secret that he covets a Nobel Prize. Trump taking recent truces that his administration facilitated between India and Pakistan and the DRC and Rwanda. Again, even these, he wasn't involved. Even India, Modi Saab, I love Donald Trump, fascist, was like, he didn't really do much. We kind of hashed it out ourselves, and he was kind of just there. The US was just there whilst we kind of figured it out. The DRC and Rwanda, again, even with this, it's really strange. Like, I sometimes watch the BBC News just to kind of see where, like, the supposedly neutral news site is supposed to be. And, like, initially they'll have, like, actual experts on who are like, yeah, I mean, the US was kind of there, but most of what was discussed between the DRC and Rwanda was facilitated by other brokers, other large African nations, or some of the Gulf states get involved as well, which is convenient for them considering they are helping Rwanda do what's happening in the DRC, or at least the militant groups, and more so Sudan, actually. So that's more on Sudan. But like, initially they'll have the actual experts who are like, yeah, the US didn't really do much. I guess they kind of were there, but most of this was already sorted out. And then when it's like primetime television time, like the 10 o'clock news, they'll have like people who clearly aren't experts in the field, who are just either loyalists to the right wing of politics, because the BBC has just moved towards the right wing because of their current editorial leads. That's a whole other video I can make. And they're just like, yeah, Donald Trump's done a great job. I suppose he should get the Nobel Peace Prize. He's done a great job. Obama, he did something like this. Trump should win it. And it's like, the actual expert was like, it's bullshit, but you don't get views from that, do you, lads? Yeah, and this is just going on about him trying to win the Nobel Peace Prize. But yeah, this is, I mean, we can take what Alon Pincus does say to be like, just because they're saying it doesn't necessarily mean it's like happening or what's going to happen right now. This is kind of what they want. Maybe they're testing the waters. Maybe they are, told their press people to be like, hey, tell people we're going to be ethnically cleansing Gaza. See how, trading partners react. See how businesses react. See how Wall Street reacts. And then we'll see what we do. I think Donald Trump is a unique piece in this, because I think Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, or whoever, Hillary Clinton, Mrs. Benghazi herself, they probably are like, yeah, we'll do it. We'll definitely do this. We definitely want to do this, but it might take 5 to 10 years. And Trump is like, yeah, I'll do this because I can maybe win the Nobel Peace Prize. And I can say, look at me, I won the Nobel Peace Prize, and this is going to help my stocks in, 2025, in 5 years, 4.5 years time. Or 3.5 years time, sorry. When's the next election? 28, yeah, 3.5 years time. Hits. Yeah. But yeah, it's truly, these people will play with the lives of human beings because they want money. They just care about making money. And it's like, when people need to realize all of these things are happening ultimately because these people want to enrich themselves. Ultimately, like, the Zionist project was based off, Herzl trying to find a land where he could exploit the people, exploit the land, enrich himself, get power for him and his homies. Trump is discussing ethnically cleansing Gaza so his friends in Silicon Valley, in Wall Street, can go there, build businesses, build resorts, whatever, make themselves money. No one in the US, like a person living in, I don't know, rural Alabama, is not going to benefit from the ethnic cleansing of Gazans. If the Gazans are forced into places like Saudi Arabia or the UAE, guess what? A poor person in Saudi Arabia isn't going to benefit from this. MBS is going to, it's all his bloody family that runs everything. Same thing in the UAE, they're going to make money, they're going to benefit from it, but a poor person living in Saudi Arabia, in the UAE, in Qatar, in El Salvador, they're not going to benefit in the slightest. It's just the rich that are going to benefit from it, because that's how capitalism works. No one benefits apart from the exploiters and those who align themselves with the exploiters enough to get the breadcrumbs.